Hi, everybody. Welcome to the McCove Mindset Podcast. I am Kevin McCove. Today, I have with me a very special guest, Deborah Mannis-Gardner. I've been fortunate enough to have a friendship with her over the past few years. Do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, I'm Deborah Mannis-Gardner, DMG Clearences, and been in this business since 1990.
So what does DMG Clearences do? Could you talk to us about what the company is first?
Sure. DMG Clearences is a music rights company. We secure the rights of music that's used in film, television, Google, Facebook, video games like Grand Theft Auto, new technology, commercials, any place where music is used and you need to get permission, we will get that consent for whomever needs that.
So what do you, for like an artist who is interested in like getting permission to use like a sample or anything like that, so they would come to you?
They would come to me. I mean, my specialty is sample clearances. I've been doing that since 1990. And so, yes, if you want to use a pre-existing copyright and incorporate it into a new song, you need to get permission from the publisher and from the label if you've used the original recording. So based on my experience, my relationships with everyone, I'm actually the go-to person to get that done.
Like the person.
Yeah,
the person. So, because you're being modest right now. But so I have a lot of contemporaries who are like in the world of hip hop. And like on Soundcloud, it's nothing that really stops you except just like a button that says like, do you own the rights to this? And you can click yes.
Although, okay.
The tech is starting to catch up.
It's starting to catch up, and you know, I'm working with a very famous artist's grandson who released something on Soundcloud and now is clearing it after the fact. And they wanted us to tell this copyright holder, you know, we legitimately did this, and he was excited, and he posted it on SoundCloud. His father's a huge person in the music industry who's deceased, or grandfather. One copyright holder said, it's cool. Here's the quote. Another copyright holder said, how dare you? We want 100% of the copyright. We went back and we groveled saying, you know, please don't do this to him. He was excited. You know, it was only in SoundCloud. It wasn't for sale, but we know it was wrong. And they reduced down to 40%.
Wow. So do you think that that's like an effective tactic to be like, look, I don't want to pay for the clearance up front? Now, I mean, I know that you're in this business, so you might have a different answer.
You know, the thing is, it bites you in the long run. We're going back and re-clearing remix tapes of really big artists. You know, Cole's done it. Some other big names I can't even mention, you know, release these remix albums or these mix albums with samples that they didn't clear, and now they're going back and clearing it, and it's going to cost a fortune. So if you choose not to clear something, you have to be prepared for two consequences. One, cease and desist and it gets pulled down. Or two, you pay a higher fee than had you cleared it originally. And then if you don't have the money, consider using TrackLib, the company I'm affiliated with, where they've got pre-existing copyrights like the Aaron Fuchs material, the Tough City stuff, at really great prices that you can afford. So what we're saying is there are places you can go out there and you can sample and not spend a lot of money and still have that great new sound to it.
So TrackLib is a place where you can do that. What exactly is TrackLib?
TrackLib, TrackLib.com. TrackLib is a company based out of Sweden, and they actually came to me my 1-year anniversary where they asked me to come on board and be partners with them because not everything's going to get cleared through DMG. But we have close to 70,000 pre-existing tracks from all over the world of really great stuff. And so instead of you digging through the crates of YouTube or Apple, you dig through the crates of TrackLib, but the music's already pre-cleared. These aren't beats. These are songs. These are library from VP Records and Daptone, and we've got Abco on board. We've got some really big names, and some majors will be coming on board hopefully by the end of this year. So we've got some really great stuff.
That's awesome. And it's just like you log in, you sign up, and you can kind of select.
And there's no fee to use TrackLib just to check it out. You know, you log on, get an account, and then start digging through the crates. And they actually have the stems that you're going to sample from.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing.
So what is like your stance on sample recreations?
You mean doing an interpolation where you re-sing or replay? I think it's awesome. If you don't have the money and you have the ability to do that, do it. If you don't have the money and you have the ability to recreate something, change it and make it your own.
Right.
I mean, I'm not anti-sampling. I'm just pro clearance and staying within a budget. And so I show people how to do that. If you don't have any money and you have the ability to create something, create it.
Because I know a lot of people don't even know that they need to get samples cleared.
I know, which is crazy, because sampling's been around
for forever.
It's forever. But
well, I think it's more like you hear it on the radio, and you're like, oh snap, this is the trend, right? Like, let's say Kanye, right? Because I feel like, for me personally, even though I know it was around, I didn't really understand the magnitude of it until I heard like Kanye do it. Then I think that's because there were vocals in it. Right. So before, when people were sampling, it was like you really had to kind of be a connoisseur of music to be like, oh yeah, like that was from the Isley, like, oh, that Biggie Small, that was from the Isley Brothers. I do, because I know people. So like,
yeah, but
it's funny because for like my daughter now, she listens to a ton of music on. I mean, her consumption rate is insane.
Yeah. And
what's common right now is to take like full phrases or like melodic ideas and like kind of sing them, and it's kind of a nod, you know, to some degree, which I guess sampling has always kind of been. Exactly. But she has no idea where the original songs come from. I'm like, oh yeah, like that's an old Genuine song. She's like, what's that? Boom, I look it up, and it's like, oh yeah, like that's this. But what's great is when it's 3 times removed. So then it's like, oh look, that's this song. It's like, wait, this is a song from the 90s. And then it's like, oh wait, that was a song from the 70s. Yeah. Like, that kind of stuff it's really neat. But so like for my daughter, she doesn't even know the first step, let alone like the second step back.
This is where you start educating her, because then that young generation gets a taste of really great music. And that's what happened with my 18-year-old, where, you know, he listens from the Gorillaz to Snoop to Marshall to Beats all over the place. And it's not just a particular artist. And then, you know, we were listening to the Gorillaz song that Snoop was on, and he's singing the Revolution Will Not Be Televised. I'm like, you know, that's Gil Scott-Heron. He's like, what? And then he started getting into Gil Scott-Heron. So it's great. Teach these kids. Let them hear it. Let them enjoy it. And then they go discovering new stuff. And that's what's awesome.
So is there a way, or is there anything out right now, because I don't even know, I'm curious, for like sample identification? So if I were an artist and I'm like, oh, like where does that come from? Like maybe I don't even know that it is a sample. How do is there a thing like on Spotify or anywhere that gives me the information?
The technology is starting to get there, but it's not quite there yet. And people who go to Who Sampled has a lot of inaccuracies in there. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll hear a phrase of words, and I'll just type that in saying, you know, lyrics, and I type in those lyrics and I see what pops up. And sometimes you can find it that way, see where it originated from. But then my ears are the ones that are like, oh, I know that bass line, I know that hook, I know that melody.
Right, so you're like an encyclopedia of music to some degree.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, like from top to bottom though. Because you kind of got to know, like, oh, like that bass line came from this, or, you know, that. Because I didn't even know, what was it? I want to say it was Future. He had done a song, I'm blanking on it right now, but the sample came from like Selma. Like an older, like 70s, like kind of jazz album. Right. And then when I watched the music video, and the video had like elements of like the march and you know, inequality, I was like, wow, that's really neat that it was Mask Off. So I'm like, that's really neat that they tied the sample, which is like Selma, into the music video. But the song to me had like nothing to really do with it, but it was like kind of subliminal.
Yeah, you know, that's what's really creative about artists, and that's again why I love the genre of music. I love sampling. I love the art side of it, and I love how the contemporary artists that do this bring things together like that and try to like not smack your face with this information, but to make sure that you're aware of it and that it becomes relevant.
Right. So for what do you say for someone who's like, hey, I want to get my music, like, okay, I got it cleared. I have my samples, everything. I'm trying to get distribution channels outside of SoundCloud and Spotify. Like, are there any other channels that you would recommend that's not just like the ones that are being super saturated at the moment?
Right. Like, I mean, I'm not really involved with the distribution. I mean, a lot of people are doing independent through E1. BMG is distributing a lot of stuff. Like Big Crit's new album is coming out on BMG. I think Eric Sermon's E1. So, you know, everyone's using these different companies, the Orchard. So there are places.
Right. So then, what if I want to get my music on TV or in ads? Because you said that you guys do like clearances and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that's hard.
process?
I mean, usually if you're signed to a label or publishing company, they're the ones that'll do it for you. I mean, there are individuals out there that have companies that just sit there and they pitch all day. And it's not something I would ever want to do. I mean, sometimes I'm on these private Facebook sites saying, you know, I'm looking for this kind of music for, you know, I was working on the Eric Garner documentary, you know, I couldn't get Childish Gambino's This Is America. He's very protective of that song. But that is just so representative of what's happening in America. Right. So I'm like, well, who's got something that they can pitch to me? And oh my God, I was overwhelmed with like 50 songs that people were pitching to me to replace that.
So how did you get into that? Like, I'm curious, how did you get into the world of like kind of music supervision and stuff?
I think I fell into it. I mean, I think it's because I have this background with that genre of music. And music supervision is not my favorite thing to do. I really prefer doing clearances, but
even though you're awesome at it. For those who don't know, Deborah did all of the music clearancing, the music supervision for the Defiant Ones on HBO.
Yes, that was me. And now I'm music supervisor for a couple of new projects. One I'm not allowed to mention, but a 1960s African-American songstress who is just phenomenal and so actively involved in the music industry today. I'm finishing up a documentary with her. And then I've got two that we've just started, which is Black Women of Rock and Johnny Good Blues. So, I mean, I've got, and there might be one other one. So I've got a couple of projects I'm music supervising. And then I just like doing the clearances, you know, Grand Theft Auto. We just did Red Dead Redemption, which just came out, broke records. And
yeah, that game was great.
And then next year we'll be starting hopefully another Grand Theft Auto. So, and there Ivan Pavlovich is the music supervisor, but I clear the thousands of songs that we consider using in the game.
So how does that work? Like when a video game company is like, hey, we want to put this music in, do you just go directly to the artist? Do you go to their label?
No, you never go to the artist. You're going to go to the publisher who handles the music for the writers. And we go to the label that controls the master rights of the recording. So those are the two parties. I could always go to managers, but I try never to do that out of respect. They let the labels and the publishers go to their people directly.
Okay.
So, and I think that's the mistake a lot of people do, is like, we're in a rush, we're going to call Raphael Sadiq and make it happen. I'm like, don't do that. You know, go to Universal and get it done properly.
So do people, when you say like, because they're in a rush, is it a long process to do this and go through the labels or go through?
Sometimes it is. I mean, we just did, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, because it was before Thanksgiving, where the label contacted me for an album was about to release, an artist was about to release an album, and went, oh my God, we found another sample, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and the copyright holders were in California, and I'm like, I can't make this happen, I can't do this, and I needed it cleared by 3 p.m. the following day, and I was in New York, I was in a car driving, so I wasn't even able to do anything. And I woke up at like 5 in the morning. I'm like, okay, how can I make it happen? And by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I had it cleared. That is not a common situation, you know, we just worked.
But that definitely is why you're the person.
I mean, we just worked on something that we got the quote in, and it took us 4 months, and because it took 4 months, the artist pulled the sample. Wow. So, you know, it varies case by case.
Does that happen often?
Where they pull it?
Right.
Sometimes we recommend to pull it. I mean, we just did something with Nicki Minaj for the new animated Spider-Man movie. The copyright holder was being very unrealistic, and we told Nicki's team, pull it. And she pulled it.
Wow.
So if someone's not going to be reasonable, we can't let them get away with it. This is sampling. This is not world peace. This is not a cure for cancer. This is licensing of music, whether incorporated into a new copyright or being synced up to a visual. And so we shouldn't be mean, we shouldn't be nasty, we shouldn't be aggressive. We should all be enjoying ourselves, and no one should take advantage of someone else. And so if I see that happening, I see how I can circumvent that situation.
How did you get into like understanding, I mean, I'm sure experience for sure, but like what the value of a sample is, or of a particular sample? How did you? That's really
open to interpretation if you think about
it.
You know, you might hear something that's really small and say, you know, it only has like 1.5% or 2% value, and the publisher's like, we won't quote under 15%. with Marshall's last album, we were like, well, if you can't do it for like 5%, then he won't use it, and you're going to get nothing on a Eminem album. And the publishers were really accommodating. Had that been a nobody artist that said the same thing, they would have been like, we're going to take a chance. So you have to look at every situation. But conversely, if it's Marshall, or if it's Khaled, or if it's Drake, I ask people not to overquote, meaning fee-wise. Like, oh, well, it's going to sell a couple million units, so we want to up the advance. And I will always say no. Someone tried to do that to Khaled 2 albums ago. I'm like, we're going to pull it. You know, and I mean, I play poker a lot of times with these people. Khaled had no interest in pulling it, but he knew I needed to get it down.
Right.
The quote. And it worked.
So does all of the fees and stuff, because you said like in advance, like where does the money come from?
Okay, so there are 2 types of fees. There's an advance, and then there's a recoupable advance, or you know, so there's a fee, meaning that money gets paid to the publisher, and it doesn't go against any future revenue. It's like this fee, but then they're also going to own a piece of the copyright. On the master side, it's almost always a recoupable advance against a royalty rate, a percentage of PPD. Where does the money come from? Well, we have to have a budget. So when you're putting together an album, you know, back in the day, you would put together a budget for paying musicians and studio time and editing and mastering and all that stuff. You need to have a sample budget. You know, you need to have money to pay for the sample copyrights. I'm working on a big secret project where we had to put together a budget, and it was going to be about $750,000 in sample fees is what I estimated.
Wow. $750,000 in sample fees.
It had 39 samples.
Wow. And that goes down, like, is there a discrepancy in the world of sample? Like, is it like, well, if it's this long or if it's this much of a...
There's no chart. But I mean, your publishing fees, the standard is between $1,500 and $3,000 non-recoupable fee per publisher. So that it becomes expensive, because if you have 4 publishers on one song and they each want $2,500, that's $10,000.
Right.
On the master side, the fees can range from $5,000 to $15,000.
So why, I'm curious, why would you have multiple publishers on one piece of music?
You have multiple writers, and they all are signed.
And they all have different, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that more common now with like
Sure.
the massive amount of writers that have...
You mean like Ed Sheeran's song that has 14 writers?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the Doors had 4 writers on their songs, and then it was Doors Music, and it was one publishing entity. You know, but then you look at the more contemporary music, you look at a Beyonce song, a Jay-Z song, Khaled song, Drake, Marshall, you've got a producer, maybe there was a side artist, you know, maybe Rihanna performed on the song, maybe Esther Dean wrote some of the lyrics, maybe Mike Will did. So each of these writers have their own publishing company. And although a lot of publishers have been swallowed up, you still have your 4 majors. You still have your Warner Chappell, Universal, Sony, ATV, and your BMG. And then you've got the other ones that are out there as well.
Right.
So that's where, you know, you could be clearing a song with, you know, 8 to 10 writers and 6 publishers. Which is different, because back in the day with like Funkadelic and Parliament, you look at that, you might see like 8 writers, but it was all Bridgeport Music. There was 1 publisher. But even now... So
is that better? Because it's more like competitive? Or no? It's just more paperwork? Like more, or is it more fees to pay out to all of these different people now if you want to get a sample?
I think it's good for writers to have the abilities to have more than 1 publisher to pick from. So I think it's all good. I don't like seeing companies being swallowed up, which has happened a lot. You know, and then some writers, and I'm not a publishing expert, might have split, their catalog might be split between 2 copyright holders. The Troutman catalog, a lot of it is split between La Strada has a portion through BMG, and another portion is Rubber Band, which is A-side Modern Works. So you could have 1 writer and 2 publishers. That was just off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you know, it just goes to show, you know, how much knowledge you have, and just kind of like how intricate everything can be. One of the things I'm trying to accomplish, like in this podcast, is to bring the type of like an applicable education to people. I think sometimes there are just things that are kind of overlooked or missed, and with me personally, I just don't feel like a lot of education programs are giving artists or writers or people who want to get into the world of publishing or whatever the type of education that they need?
They're not. The Rap Coalition used to, and I've been talking to Wendy Day that we need to go out there and start doing roundtables where people can ask these questions and doing discussions. I am now actively involved lecturing at colleges and lecturing at music conferences, but that still isn't going to reach everybody. So
Right.
there has to be a need, something has to be done where we need to get out there and speak to people. And again, like I said, I want to talk to Wendy Day from the Rap Coalition and see if we can try to get something up and running. We used to do that back in the late 80s, early 90s.
So there used to be like
Hello.
programs or
Yes.
seminars or something that you could go to. And
Yeah, she used to do that, but it's missing. So there's a need. So if you want to start it up, let me know, because there's definitely a necessity.
I think when we first met, the first time that we met was at the Dewey Beach
Is
Music
it
Conference,
possible
and we were
we
doing
can
a panel.
reschedule that?
And one of my tactics
Okay,
in
what-
getting the
what
attention of
time next
people who
week
were
works
on the
for you?
panels that I wanted to be able to talk to was
Next
to just kind of ask like
week Thursday at 6?
a left field type of question or whatever. And so we
Okay,
talked
that'll
about,
work. Let's do it for them then.
you were asking about sales.
All right,
I think.
thank you so much.
Like,
I appreciate
how
it.
do you
Bye-bye.
sell music or whatever? And I'm just like, well, I talk at schools, and that gives me like a cap on a
Right.
specific market that I can choose to sell to however I want to. Like, I can put them in any kind of model.
Right.
And at that particular time, we were like kind of doing a text-based marketing, subscription-based model plan. But the point of that's like a byproduct. The point of me going to any of the schools and still is just to provide education that I don't think that those kids are really getting. Like,
They're not. It's not out there. And so, I mean, I do a lot of podcasts, which really helps. I mean, if you think of any other way for us to do it, then I'm definitely keen on that. You know, Dewey Beach Music Festival's gone now.
right.
I don't know if it's ever coming back. Which
I
is
don't
just a shame.
believe that it is coming back.
Yeah.
Just from talking to a few different people who were involved with it,
Yeah.
and talking to Miss Walls.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, it is. Do you know Suzanne Polinsky?
I know the name. Yeah.
She was trying to kind of do something down there too. She does like a musicpreneur kind of. It's like a conference almost, but it kind of bounces around. She did one down there the year right after Dewey Beach Music Festival had stopped, but I'm not sure if it was something that like really would stick.
Yeah. I knew Senator Coons and I've been talking to his office, especially with the Music Modernization Act, which he was in the forefront to help pass, and he wants to try to do some stuff here in Delaware.
That'd be awesome. So yeah, we'll talk afterwards to see what can really be done, because legislation has also been something that I've focused on. That's actually one of the reasons why I've been able to get into so many schools. Was kind of attacking the legislation first and being like, hey, look, this is missing, and I understand that's not like you have a budget to put a classroom together to be like, hey, let's talk about entrepreneurship in the arts, or
Right.
The different facets of education that you're going to need to like polish up on. So let me go to schools and do it for free, kind of a thing. And it's like, oh yeah, sure. And you get the mayor to come out and say that like it's great, which helps to lend some legitimacy. But ultimately, it's like it's ridiculous how much work has to go in to providing an education in a field that's such a legitimate field. It's such a legitimate field, especially with the advancements of technology. It's become even more of a field where like people can provide an income for themselves.
Exactly.
Like you really can. I think that when you deprive people of that avenue of education, if you're talking about the economy and stuff, like you're completely disregarding a section of the economy that props a lot of things up. But it's another avenue for a kid to make a living for himself, to provide for him or his family, or her family. Like, I just really don't understand why it's kind of like that, or the type of education that's being given in music is ancient. It's really, really old.
Yeah, it's antiquated. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to learn about music from 500 years ago. And it's crazy because music from 500 years ago, it's like 500 years ago, I don't really think, and I don't know, I wasn't around 500 years ago, but I don't think that they were throwing down their throats like, hey, we should really do music from 500 years before this. It was kind of like, hey, you're pushing forward, because there was a lot of competition, especially like countrywide, like during all of these different time periods, the Baroque period, classical period, Renaissance period, like you had this massive burst of culture coming out of different places, like in Italy, and then there's competition, there's cultural competition. It's like, okay, now you have, you know, these art songs that are coming out of French or out of France, and you know, like everything kind of bounces back and forth. I think that we're sort of behind the ball on that, especially with being able to do things, being able to be like an independent artist and place your music now. So you said that you do stuff for Instagram, Facebook. Like, how is that avenue? What are you seeing from that avenue? Because I know that it's kind of brand new.
It is brand new for them, and so they're in the midst of, you know, they've got their PRO licenses in place in the United States. They need to work on territory by territory, and now I think Facebook is hoping to be a force of nature and to be straight competition for Amazon and Hulu and for Netflix in creating programming.
Yeah. So a partner of mine, the guy who I work primarily with, Ryan Knock, he landed some music in the like OBJ series from LeBron. I think it's like 4 different episodes that he's got music. So right now he's, you know, playing the waiting game. Like, oh, like we'll see what the payout looks like. But I'm like, that's kind of how new it is, that everyone in like the groups are still talking to each other. Like, we don't know what the numbers look like yet. So do you think that it will? I guess we can wait and see. But do you think that it'll be a legitimate stream? Like,
I do. I think it's a long road ahead of them, but I think you know, it's a hard game. You know, Netflix and Amazon are paying out a lot of money for these productions, for these programs, for these series, and how are they making the money back? Where's the money coming back in? It's, you know, eventually something's going to plateau. We'll see. You know, when you have a documentary, you have a series, and you go to to deliver it to Amazon or Hulu or Netflix, you already have to pay for all the music. So you've got to already find that money or get a loan, pay for everything, then deliver it to these companies and get paid, and hopefully make sure that you break even or making a profit. It's not like, you know, free TV where there's advertisements and, you know, the revenue is derived from advertising.
right.
Hulu does have some form of advertising because they have one part that has advertising and one that does not, through subscription. Netflix is subscription also. But where do those numbers come in? Is it enough money to help keep bringing in all these projects?
So do you feel like it's kind of a bubble that may burst?
I don't know. I'm watching it pretty carefully. I mean, I'm pretty much very much involved in doing clearances for a lot of these projects. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. I think cable TV is going to eventually disappear and everything's going to be internet based.
Yeah.
Just like MP3s are going to be gone, which we saw that coming years ago. I mean, I do a lot of work with Rockstar and Take-Two, and they had told me 8 to 10 years ago, out drinking, oh, you know, MP3s are going to be obsolete. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right, like everybody's using them.
Right.
You need to stream it.
Yeah, and everything's streaming. You know, my son is still very old school. I mean, he streams everything, but he will not let me get rid of any of my CDs. I've got about 10,000 CDs and boxes.
Oh, that's a lot of CDs.
Yeah, and vinyl. And he's like, you cannot get rid of anything, Mom. Get a storage facility, put it all in there so that when I come back from college, I've got music. I mean, when he was in Europe, he was buying vinyl.
Does that, so this is very kind of out there, but do you think that there is some kind of, like that it's actually really important to have physical, tangible copies of things, just in case like something crazy happens? Like if the internet shuts down for some reason. And
I'm old school. You know, when the Gorillaz album came out, my son bought it on vinyl, CD, and streaming, download.
Wow.
He
He's supported. Yeah, like,
totally supported.
He's supported.
So, you know, I mean, I get about a $500 a month bill of downloads of music.
Wow.
Yeah, we do a lot of downloading it. And then we pull it out of the app and we put it in our own library.
So do you, for the independent artist, we're just kind of talking about Facebook, Instagram, do you think that there is room that probably just hasn't even really been explored yet as an independent artist to place music in videos on those platforms and collect?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, you know, when I work on these projects, if a song is good, a song is good. And it shouldn't matter if it's independent or financially supported by a major label. A label is a bank account. It's really a bank loan. You know, you do this record deal for $500,000. They're not giving you $500,000 that you can go skip to my loo. I mean, that is a loan for you to put an album out, and then they use every means of it going against recoupment. And instead of paying interest like you do on a credit card, you're not reimbursing, you know, you get 50 cents to the dollar, or 75 cents to the dollar, whatever the deal is. And with that bank loan, you know, it used to be that they gave you the marketing, and they gave you this, and they gave you, you know, the A&R, you know, assistance and legal affairs and all this stuff. But everyone hires a manager, everyone hires a publicist, everyone hires an attorney, everyone hires, you know, a booking. You know, you're always hiring outside parties. So what is the label actually doing?
Right. They just have the channels. They have certain channels to plug you into that makes the access a little, the barriers to entry in areas where there are a barrier.
I mean, I'm still trying to understand the Taylor Swift deal. What is Universal getting out of that deal? She just signed with the Lipman signed her to Republic. But what are they getting? She always holds on to all of her rights.
Maybe it's just, well, I mean, I don't know what the deal entails, but maybe it's a portion of like the performance, or, you know, maybe they can like kind of tag their brand along with something with her.
Maybe.
Like, it's interesting to me how I see like private businesses doing that with music the way that it used to be done with athletes. Like, it's like in fashion and culture, like that's kind of always been a thing. Like Pepsi always used musicians, and you know, like Nike or whatever. But when I think of like Beats headphones, which and Apple, right? So like you can see a Beats commercial, you see like an Apple commercial, they're like still the same thing, and they have artists that are then kind of promoting the platform and the device. Like, you know, that's a really that's a really encompassing thing, you know. And I think for a label, maybe there's just even
maybe like they're branding it. I'll think about that. That's an interesting concept. I mean, I'm working with fashion. Like I work with True Religion. I've worked with you know, NY Company. Worked with Vera Wang, and so you know they're always tying, you know, music to their brands, to their clothing. You know, I work with Fenty, which is Puma, and that tie-in. And you know, I'm working on some large ads right now where the song is going to end up branding the product, and the product is going to be branding the artist. So
kind of one hand washes the other. And do you think that there is a lot more of that? Well, kind of like that's kind of where you need to go.
Look at the commercials. I mean, the fact that Capital One used Prince and Michael Jackson kind of freaked me out.
Right.
I wasn't a fan of that, but
because they have access now, right?
Just if Prince was alive, he would have
never done it.
Have never done it. I mean, you can tell I'm a huge Prince
right.
fan. But you know, you're watching car commercials and you recognize the songs, right?
Yeah.
You're hearing the Rolling Stones. You're hearing remix of Stone songs, and you know.
Yeah, there's a Jeep commercial, Michael Jackson. Like right after he passed, you know, where it's like, oh, okay, they jumped on that so quick.
So you know, you're seeing that, you know, and it's Christmas time and it's holiday time, and my God, I mean, what you're hearing with the music being used in advertisements right now is crazy. You know, and those are nice big six figures.
Right.
Yeah, it's like $400,000 to $700,000 deals.
So for an independent artist who's curious, like what is a channel, maybe even just one, like where do they start? Because I'm sure that there are plenty of people who are like, oh, I want to get my song on like a Jeep commercial. How do I do it?
Yeah, you know, your music's got to get to the ad agencies or get to these people who pitch. I don't pitch. You know, as a music supervisor, even if I pick a song, you know, the director has to like it, and if you're doing a TV show, it's the runner. I mean, there's all these people involved in picking music. It's not just you. And so what you might think is the perfect song for a Jeep commercial,
right, the creative director is like, no,
or the ad agency or what have you. You know, it's not easy. But if it does happen, it's a great springboard.
Right.
You know, I listen to Alt Nation, listen to Sirius Radio in my car, and many times then 6 months later, 8 months later, I'll hear one of their songs being used in a commercial.
So do you think that radio, like terrestrial radio and satellite radio what do you think about them in terms of the marketplace? Is it still a
I'm
legitimate
so bad.
place?
I don't listen to terrestrial radio
At all. Well, that's an identifier right there.
I do.
Like,
I really do. Yeah, but conversely, I don't really listen to Spotify.
So where do you find your new music?
YouTube.
YouTube. Wow. I read this thing that said like still 73% of all music consumption happens on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's huge.
Huge. Absolutely.
And so when you're listening to music on YouTube, you listen to like you watch music videos, you watch just audio.
I don't watch.
lyric
I'm
videos,
just
or
usually
just
listening
using
to it,
to,
and you know, if I like something, then sometimes it brings up something else.
Mhm.
So you're just all over the place. You know, being part of Track Club, sometimes I listen to the music in there because they got crazy shit. Then like people are sampling stuff, and I get turned on to something I never heard before, and then you start researching who that artist is and who they're affiliated with, then you start listening to that, and then artists that are similar to that, and then you could just like go off on a tangent and spend hours doing that.
Right. The wormhole. YouTube is great for that. I don't know what algorithm they have set up, but they had like the best when it comes to just getting sunk. Like you just get stuck. One video after the next.
I mean, that's kind of like, you know, how my sons got turned on to stuff. Like we are into like the Nightmare Before Christmas. I mean, you saw the outside of my house. I've got skeletons with Santa hats. That's how we do Christmas in our house.
Nightmare Before Christmas is actually like one of my favorite. I mean, Danny Elfman's also one of my favorite composers.
Yeah.
Like he's amazing.
He's amazing. So then they remade the album with more contemporary alternative artists. And so then you get turned onto like the Yoshida brothers, and you get turned onto like really different things because of that. I think soundtracks are so key. You know, I turned my son onto Baby Driver, and he's like, "Oh my God, Mom, this is incredible!" And then he got turned onto Carla Thomas, Baby, and started going all over the place. And I was like, "Wow, there's 2 songs named after you, T-Rex and Beck," you know, because their songs are Deborah. So there's so, and then you take that, and then you start exploring, and who was T-Rex affiliated with, you know.
Right.
There's so many different avenues. So YouTube is a good one. Soundtracks to movies and TV shows, pull it up on your computer, listen to the songs, and then that can take you to other places. There is so much music out there. Don't listen to the same song over and over again.
Right. Well, or maybe if you create that music, you're like, hey, listen to my music over and over again.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's less replay value in music now, just because it's so saturated? Like, there's so much music that
it's hard because like only 1% is successful.
Right. Yeah, I was looking into this thing that said that like Drake's God's Plan just went diamond, and like the album, it was saying that it's like 1,500 streams equals like one album sale or something like that now.
Yeah, it's this
So,
crazy equation.
Yeah, the equivalency is
Weird.
up for debate. Yeah, it's up for debate, but it's sold a lot of records, but it said that 80% of those sales are really coming out of 3 songs. Even though the album's got like 18 or something like that. Like, it's got a ton of songs on it. Let's say no one's listening to anything
same
else.
with Scorpion. I mean, but he Drake's an interesting client. I mean, whether you like him or you don't like him, I have so much respect for him. I think he's one of the hardest working people in the industry. He always has music. He's always grinding. He's always at it.
So what's it like working with, like, I'm looking at these records that you have up here and stuff, like, what has it been like in your career being able to work with, like, such talented musicians?
I think what's exciting is not just the talented musicians, but their team of people. Because you can have a really talented artist, but it's the team that helps elevate that artist to get out there for everyone to hear it. So like for Drake, he's got this amazing management team, Mr. Morgan and Future. He has great legal counsel out of Thea Sedemeyer's office and Lisa Donini. That is what takes someone who's really talented, you know, and Noah, who's the producer, 40, who executive produced his last album, and kind of elevates them up. So I really think it's a team. It's a team effort. You know, we can say the same thing with, like, Logic, I think could be in the next Drake, in all honesty. Harrison Remler is from Team Visionary is his management. And then he's got the law firms, you know, with Matt Cutler and Paul. And so, and then Logic, he just dropped, you know, an album. 6 months later, he dropped another album. 6 months later, he'll probably have another album ready.
Right.
You know, he's always grinding, he's always writing, he's always working. And then he's got people who support him. and what he wants to do.
So do you think that putting out, like right now we're in a time where it's just like put out music?
Yeah, you can't, you know, look how quickly Marshall did 2 albums in a row like that. You've never seen that before. You have to stay relevant. You have to keep putting out product. And we're in a digital age where you have the ability, you know, if I have a deadline on Friday, it means because the product's going out Saturday. It used to be that you needed X amount of time for it to go to the press and to print it and to do the artwork. And, you know, because we're in a digital age, everything is really fast.
Yeah, it's crazy how, like, I mean, in the world of advertising and stuff, I'm more used to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to, like, the deadlines coming in. It's just like, hey, like, this is a 5 p.m. thing, you know, Pacific Standard Time, whatever, and you're trying to get it through. Or maybe you want to get it through a little earlier because you got a plug and they're going to be like, hey, look, they're not going to like this, send it back. Like, that, I'm used to it in that world. But then, like, just more recently, trying to do more writing with artists and stuff, like the Tory Lanez project that just came out.
Which I worked on.
You worked on that too?
Well.
So we were writing for, because we have a direct connect to Tory, and it's like, yeah, the stuff that's getting finished tonight is being considered for what's going to go on the album like tomorrow.
Yes.
I was like, what? Like, the stuff being done right now is going to get heard and could end up on the album.
Metro Boomin's album was like that. We were working up until, like, he thought he was done, and he kept creating, and then there was more music. He was another great person to work with. I mean, here's someone who was a producer that kind of crossed over as an artist and had a great team and was just phenomenal to work with. It was a great album. I love the album title.
What when you're working like that, like, do the clearances come, like, so let's say he wants to do a track, like, and it's going to end up on, hey, I made a track tonight, but it's got a sample in it, but I want to upload it and put it out tomorrow. Are you ever in a situation like that where you're like, wow, you might need to wait, or
Sure.
yeah, I'm going to try to get it?
But I'm more, you know, when these artists are just so kind and great to deal with, I work my butt off to try to, you know, achieve that deadline that they've created for me.
And you're working on both sides too then, right? Like, so not only are you like, hey, I'm going to try to get this cleared for you, but then you got to go to the other people and say
beg
yeah,
them.
yeah, be like, hey, by the way, can we please use this? And so when they say no, how often does it happen that people are like, no, you can't use this?
It's about 1%. But usually we tell people, we usually know when it's going to be a no. We tell people and they still have us try.
And
you know, like, it's very difficult to clear LL Cool J. He's very protective of his copyright. And so if someone small comes to us, you know, LL obviously cleared for Marshall, but when a smaller artist came to us, we had warned them that it was going to get denied, and it did.
so for what reasons might an artist say no? Just because they don't like your...
I can't answer for LL, who is my client and is the nicest, sweetest person on the phone. Just so kind and respectful. But then there are people like Anita Baker who just doesn't want her stuff sampled. She created it in a certain way and wants it to stay in that pure form, and she's always denied. And even when friends have gone to her, Faith Evans wanted to sample her, and they're friends. And she's like, you know, if I give it to you, I have to give it to someone else. I've got to stay with where I am, and I respect her for that. I have a lot of respect for
Right,
people like
because realistically, someone could just say, yes, I want to make more money. Like, if you're no longer a relevant artist anymore, and then someone's like, hey, I want to sample your stuff, it's technically like a way that you can generate an income for yourself off of music that's not really generating an income. Or maybe your sample goes into this track and that blows up, so you make money off of that, but then people want to find out where the sample came from. Oh, that sample's really cool, and then they go back to your... So I guess that is a really, like... Do you think many artists are really purists like that, where they're just like...
I don't think many artists are purists, but I think the people who are, you need to respect that. And you know, like, again, going back to the Tracklib thing, when I approach people, they're like, well, why would I put my stuff in Tracklib if people are already sampling my stuff? My answer is, don't give me the stuff that people are sampling. Give me the stuff that isn't earning any revenue. Put it in a Tracklib, get it that exposure, because once people start sampling it, then everyone else is going to want to sample it.
So it's like a music library of sorts.
Except it's top amazing material from these incredible record labels and music publishers. you know, you could have a catalog of 5,000 songs and you might have 200 that isn't earning any revenue. Give me the 200 that isn't earning revenue and see if we can get it out there so we'll earn revenue.
Right. And
so it's not a library per se. It's a sample library. It's stuff that's pre-cleared for sampling, but it's material was out there, that had a life, that made money, but isn't anymore.
Right. So that's really neat. Can you say like who you started this company with, or you said you?
I didn't start it. It was started out of Sweden.
Okay.
Per Almquist is the one who started it with his friend Eric, and Tommy Silverman here in the United States is one of the partners, and then they brought me on board. I joined them November 1st of last year.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And just because I believed in what they were doing and I liked them as people, as individuals, that's actually what got me. Was I like the people, their hearts, it was all in the right place, and I just took off from there.
I've read something, I believe that I read something that's you were involved in some kind of technology for sample identification. Is this no?
No, TrackLib isn't sample identification. I mean, I'm involved
maybe
with
not
a
even
couple
for
of
TrackLib.
I am involved with Artist Development League, which is a springboard for artists to help get branded and to kind of have like this ticker of tracking their music and how well they're doing. And based on how they're doing on social media, ad agencies can, look at their territory, look at where they're doing, and then possibly take one of their products and brand it to that artist.
And that's free to sign up for as well. Mm-hmm. So I know because I'm signed up for the Artist Development League, but
okay, yeah.
just to plug it, in case there's an artist who hears this and would like an opportunity, because one of the things that you were just saying is like a publisher could look at it, or someone just
anyone
say, hey,
can look at it.
You're valuable.
Exactly. That's the whole point of it. It shows the value, but again, you as the artist and your team is what's going to make you valuable. Doing these shows, getting that attention, getting on social media. I mean, that's the generation. I'm 53 now, before there was any of this shit. And now you've got social media, which is what the young people are using, the youth are using. And you need to use social media as a means of connecting with your fans, getting information out there, getting people to go to shows. And so that's, ADL takes that information, organizes it so that, let's say, a clothing company that is a local clothing company that specializes in certain kinds of t-shirts and sees an artist that would look good for them to wear that t-shirt, and they're doing an upcoming show, and then you coordinate for them to wear that t-shirt, and ADL kind of brings it all together.
Right, like a brand placement.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
ADL, what's the website that people could go to?
For ADL?
Yes.
I think it's artistdevelopmentleague.com.
Okay, so we'll post
but you'll post that.
Yeah,
and
we'll
then tracklib is tracklib.com.
Tracklib.com.
And then there's DMGClearences.com. I don't mean to be so involved in all this stuff, but I mean, if I believe in something and someone comes to me, then I'm gonna be involved.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're preaching to the choir, because I certainly know, you've been such an asset and just like even kind person. I think like that's the greatest thing about you. And so many people in the industry, but you're just a genuine soul, honestly. Like, I can send you a message and just like check in and because that's more like me, like as a person. Like I really care about the people, and so like when I'm able to reach out to someone and it's not just so like it's nice. There's an element of warmth there where I can feel like, no, if you needed something from me that had nothing to do with music, I would go do that.
Right. Well, that's like when you went to Puerto Rico, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, I was doing the fundraising thing, which is still just like a complete mess in Puerto Rico, where we need really to get the money there. And, now Cruz and Trump are at odds. And, I mean, look at where her country is going. We're a country that we were supposed to, send us, you're sick, you're poor, let us help,
Right.
And now we're throwing tear gas at people.
Yeah,
and you know what?
It's rough.
And you know what?
Now.
If they were white and they were barging the wall in Canada, they would not be throwing tear gas at them.
Right.
That's straight up. Let's.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Let's call a duck when you see a duck, and.
Yeah, same thing with like all of the domestic terrorism that's going on right now that doesn't get labeled that way. And,
which it needs to.
There are. we all know that it needs to. We all know that it's like it's not going to.
Well, I think the blue wave is coming. And, you know, if I say anything to my clients, being in the music industry, and if you've got the ability and if you've got the power to get out there and get the word out, you know, I think artists are more powerful. You know, Katy Perry her career got hurt supporting Hillary Clinton, which really is so disappointing. You know, and it scared a lot of musicians.
Of artists from taking a stance.
For taking a stand like that. But I think the blue wave is coming, change is going to come, and I think, you know, we got great people like Scooter Braun, who is just so actively involved.
Scooter is out here.
You know,
like,
but
really,
he's out there, very active. You know, he was there, you know, supporting Hillary, and he will not, you know, ever back down. You know, and whether you liked Obama or not, I loved him. I thought he was one of the best presidents we've had in my lifetime. And again, I'm only 53.
Well, I agree with you, and I'm only 29,
you know, the thing was, he was never as liberal as people set him out to be. He always was a down the road Democrat. He never made these crazy liberal promises, and they were mad that he didn't. They thought, you know, because he's African American, that he would do that. He shouldn't have to do that.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in our next election, and I hope the music industry gets out there and supports it and makes changes in our country.
Do you think that the independent artist plays a role in that as well? Like,
Absolutely.
you know, like, 'cause I feel like in the late, or I guess not even the late, but like in the 60s and 70s, I feel like there was a lot of music that were just like
during the Vietnam
social
War.
change type.
Absolutely. Look at the Vietnam War and the social change that music tried to do. I think especially the hip hop and rap community needs to get out there and to get the vote out there. If people of color all went out and voted, there would be a change. Granted, there's you know, people who are being prevented to vote.
Oh yeah.
And that's a huge problem, especially in the southern states. But I think if people cared, because you know the young people don't care. They're like, we don't like anyone, so I'm not going to vote.
Right.
You
Or
know?
that I don't feel like my vote can do anything at all.
Do anything. But if you looked at our country, the white man is a minority.
Right.
And so if we got out there and voted, people of color and women and the youth, we could make a change. They could make the change that's needed in the United States.
Yeah, totally.
Because you're about to lose health care.
I mean, a lot. I think a lot is getting a lot. Right now, what I see certainly is kind of like a pullback to be like, look, just because of population, we are losing. Like, you know, if you're a white male, you're definitely losing in terms of population. But what you still have is influence and affluence.
Exactly. If
you're
white,
you're still at the top, and I think there's been this progression that's kind of happened. First, it was like, okay, well, voting was just like white men with property, so it's just like rich white men. So you know, all the people that were elected were just going to be rich white men, and then it's like, okay, well, white men, period. Like, if you don't have property, it's okay, but that's fine too, because it was easy then to control those people and just be like, oh, well, these people are already in place, and then it's, you know, women, so it keeps extrapolating itself down, but then you're starting to lose like the concentration that you have, because even like, I was born in '89. During that time period, essentially it was just the same families running the country. You know, it's like Bush, and then Clinton, and then Bush, and then even running for president again is just like another Bush is still running for president. Like, and there's still governors or mayors or senators, and so it's the same families, the same groups of people all of the time.
Look at the Senate. Look at the House of Representatives. I mean, at least the House of Representatives is now changing, where, you know, the Senate is still old white men. But yeah. So I think so. Take the Chance the Rapper. You know, Jay-Z was very active with Obama. He should be really back out there getting people to vote. Puff needs to get out there and tell people to vote.
Right, he was like doing the runs and stuff in New York. Was like,
right. Everyone needs to get out there and tell people to vote and let them know their vote counts. And so going back to your question about independent artists, yes, if you're an independent artist and you've got people following you, you have a say and you can make a change.
Right.
And every person,
even like your local community, you could get like your whole city to go out and vote. You can motivate them that type of change.
Exactly.
Get in the governor that you need, or get in the state senate.
Because hip hop and rap is not a minority-based music anymore. You know, it is of the norm.
It's the pop. It's the pop culture.
Exactly. Exactly. So, if you were smart, you would take advantage of that and use that.
Well, I want to thank you so much for lending me your time. Hope that I didn't keep you away from too many things.
No, and you let me go off on a tangent, which was awesome.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm here to try to provide as much knowledge from the people who are just right around here. You know, there's so much like rich culture and rich like the artists and like the biggest songwriter in like the whole country right now is from Delaware. You know, Brittany Hazard, Star.
Oh.
And it's from Southern Delaware. You know, there's a guy from Southern Delaware right now, Jimmy Allen. He's got the #1 country song.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's a lot here in this small little state, and we touch so many other things. You know, we're 2 hours from New York, an hour from Philly,
Exactly.
an hour from Baltimore,
2 hours from Washington.
2 hours from DC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot that is right here, and so anything that I can do to take the people here and put them on to anyone else that could probably help them or just change their mindset, that's what I'm here to do. So thank you for
It's my pleasure.
allowing me. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you need a picture as well to put Chiron on about this? Because I've got one. If you need that. I noticed like